Okay, we also had a Ayrshire 2-year-old cow, blue ribbon exhibitor, Savannah Weber.
In this Brown Swiss class, starting this class, the only entry in there, just a beautiful heifer right here. Really appreciate her femininity and her youthfulness as she comes around the ring. She's a big heifer. She's going to be a big cow. But this heifer is just on target, in my opinion, for the amount of condition that she's got today. She's really carrying herself well. I really appreciate that size and that capacity that she has. Just a really nice young heifer right here for this 4-H'er.
Michaela Hilton by exhibits your champion Brown Swiss heifer. Next is your yearling Guernsey.
Another class with just a single entry, really nice heifer here. As we analyze this heifer, we like to see the way that neck blends back into the shoulder so smoothly, so correctly about this heifer. Really appreciate this heifer as well for that barrel on her. I really like the overall size and scale about her. She's just really very dimensional. Nice heifer for this 4-H'er.
Quentin Seringhouse exhibits your champion Guernsey. Next, we have several classes of Holsteins. First will be your spring calf.
in this young heifer class, we did have a photo of a red Holstein in that same age group. This heifer that we're going to start the class with, though, the heifer that's probably wanting to just relax and enjoy that fan blowing on her just a little bit more, but still a heifer that you really like for her overall size and scale for this age. She's just got a lot of dimension about her. Really like the straightness of her leg, the way she gets around the ring whenever she wants to. And she does an excellent job out here in that levelness about her top line. The other heifer, the photo that we had, just a little different in her overall makeup from the pictures that we utilized, but still a nice heifer in her design and her makeup. She's going to stand second over this one, just a little more correct on those feet and legs for me, the way the picture shows today. Thank you.
Your first place exhibitor in the Holstein Spring Calf, Quentin Seringhouse. Leah Weber in second. I'm kind of wondering if any parents in here have a kid around home like that. I see some of you smiling. Next is your Holstein Winter Calf class.
three really nice heifers out here in this class as we analyze them and go through. We're going to start the class with the calf that's just got a little more size, a little more capacity, a little straighter lines about it, just probably a little bit older than the rest of the calves in the class. Really appreciate this heifer for her size and scale. Really appreciate that extension of the neck. The heifer we've got in second kind of follows that same pattern, maybe not quite as long and tall. Has, again, probably a younger heifer in the class, but still a good level topped heifer in her own right. The heifer in third, taking nothing away from her, really a lot of bone about this heifer. The heifer's just a little shorter neck, a little more masculine in her overall appearance in comparison to those two heifers ahead of her, but still a heifer that's going to grow into a really nice female.
Michaela Hilton Bidle, your first place exhibitor. Second, Lydia Seringhouse, and third, Allie Hickey. Next is your Holstein fall calf.
A big growthy type of red Holstein heifer here as we analyze her. Probably the most, probably the best attribute that I can say about this heifer is that barrel on her. Just a really big barreled heifer, a heifer that's going to show me that she's got a lot of capacity as she grows in and matures and gives us that first calf and those other calves as she moves along. You know, as we analyze dairy heifers, it's really hard to say what that capacity is going to be of that udder and what kind of production we're going to get because the veining hasn't started really showing up yet. Really, we haven't seen a full udder yet on any of these, but still a nice heifer in this red class. Really appreciate her for that bone, but more so about that barrel that she's got and that capacity there as she moves.
Michaela Hilton Bidle, your first place exhibitor of the Holstein fall calf. Next, we're going to show your Holstein summer yearlings.
As we get a little older in these Holstein females, we're going to use the female that I think just gives me a little more angularity, a little cleaner in that chest floor in comparison to our second heifer. That second heifer, we really appreciate her growthiness, the amount of bone that she has, really nice movement around the ring, but I just don't see the angularity about that pattern on her. I'd like to clean up that chest floor just a tad bit just to get her to compete against this heifer ahead of her, but two nice heifers for these 4-H'ers. We did have a third picture that was a virtual picture. Really nice heifer. She's going to be another blue ribbon heifer.
Your first place exhibitor, Lily Seringhouse, Noah Hilton Beidel second, and from a virtual entry, Emily Bruner third.
two females that are pretty much peas in a pod. Just really appreciate both these girls. Really like how both of them move around the ring on a good set of feet and legs. Really appreciate that. We're going to start out with the young man's female, just a tad bit more angular for me today. Really appreciate that width in the chest floor that she carries. Really brings that back into a big, firm, and really wide-sprung hind rib in comparison to that fore rib, just giving us a little bit more indication that she's got a little more body capacity. Taking nothing away from this big second place heifer, probably the longest heifer of the two, a heifer that I do appreciate for her overall levelness across that top line. I'd like to just give her a little cleaner in that chest floor, give her a little wider stance, but a good balanced individual in her own right. Two really, really nice heifers right here for these 4-H'ers. Let's give them a nice round of applause, please.
Noah Hilton Beidle, your first place exhibitor. Michaela Hilton Beidle, second. Our last class of the Holstein before we show for your champion Holstein will be your junior 2-year-old cow.
Really well-balanced female right here. Really appreciate that development that we're starting to see and in this female as far as the udder and the milk veining that we're starting to see there as well. This is a really good level top, big-bodied, big capacity female. I really appreciate that overall length of body, the prominence back there from her hooks to pins, really level in that area as well, and a good set to that tail head. Just a nice individual for this class, really could stand a whole lot of competition. Let's give her a nice round of applause.
Michaela Hilton Beidle exhibits your champion 2-year-old. Now we'll show for your overall champion Holstein.
We did have a 3-year-old photo that we're going to give a blue ribbon and a class winner to, and Dave will tell you about who that belonged to.
Your 3-year-old cow exhibitor, blue ribbon goes to Chloe Weber.
really, really a nice lineup of Holsteins out here to pick from for your champion. I think we've got several that are well deserving, some that are going to come on in the next year or two where they'll be up at that end where that udder has started developing, and we can tell a little bit more about that potential that they have as an animal for production for these 4-H'ers. But today, our champion Holstein's going to be the cow right here. I just really appreciate her for everything that I talked about in class. Just a really big individual, but an individual that really has a lot of capacity and a great future. Following pretty closely, though, is this heifer that the young man's got, and she's going to be your reserve champion. I think this heifer's got a big, big potential as she moves on down. I really appreciate the prominence that she has overall in that length and that top line. But today, the big heifer's going to take this class, or the big cow's going to take this class and just run away with it. Two great individuals that these 4-H'ers need to be really proud of. Please give all of our exhibitors of Holsteins a nice round of applause.
Okay, the Hilton Beidle exhibits your champion Holstein. Your reserve champion goes to Noah Hilton Beidle. Your next class, once we get these out, will be your Jersey Spring Calf. Well, we're getting this in. How many of you have got high schoolers in the audience? How many of you would like to have free high school or free college? How about if I told you I'd give you a year of free college at Purdue? How many would be interested? Okay, all you have to do is go to purdue.university/FastStart. It's a new program for high school students to get college credit before they get to Purdue. If they complete 5 courses, they're guaranteed admission to Purdue. They could get to Purdue and start as a sophomore for free. If you know students are thinking about Purdue University, have them go look at Fast Start. It's a great program by Modern States that's giving high schoolers a chance to gain free college credit. You won't hear about that every day. Fast Start, check it out.
Start out your Jersey show. We're going to use this young heifer as our first place animal, of course, being the only one in the class. Just a really nice topped heifer. Really appreciate her as she moves around the ring and sets up on those feet and legs. Really nice job, young lady. Congratulations.
Lila Strewing exhibits your first place Jersey Spring Calf. Next, we'll show your Jersey Fall Calves.
Two nice pattern type of females here in this second class of your Jersey show. We're going to use the little smaller framed, little bit leveler topped animal in this class. I really appreciate the way that this animal tracks out wide, tracks out long, but I really do appreciate that levelness and that upended part of that tail head. The second place animal, taking nothing away from her, very feminine, very overall dynamic in her overall style and tail. I'd like to level her out over that tail head just a tad bit to get her to stand just a little higher, give her a little more width and length and that reach on that walk to get her to go past this younger heifer up in first. Two nice heifers. Let's give these exhibitors a nice round, please.
Gracie Sturgeon, your first place exhibitor. Bryson Miller, second in your Jersey Fall calf. Next, we'll show your Jersey Summer Yearling.
Two nice heifers out here in this class. We're going to start out with the heifer that's just straighter across that top line, just a little bit truer in the way that she moves. I really appreciate this heifer for that length of body and that femininity that she blends that neck back into that front shoulder. The second female, a female that I appreciate for her dairy character about her, a female I'd like to level out over that top line just a little bit as she comes from over the top of those shoulders just past the wither area, and I'd like to get her level just a tad bit more and get her up on her toes just a little bit more as she moves around the ring. But two good individuals right here. Let's give them a nice round of applause.
Your first place exhibitor, Rhea Miller, and second, Quentin Seringhouse. Your next class, Jersey Winter Yearling Heifers.
two very, very nice individuals right here. Trying to decide which one to start with and which one to put in second is really splitting hairs really finely for me. As we analyze these two heifers, you've got to appreciate the overall length of body. You've got to appreciate the levelness that both of them have with a nice set to that tail head. As we analyze these two, I like the cleanliness of that chest floor on that first place heifer just a touch more than I do that chest floor on the second place heifer. Second place heifer tends to have that chest floor out just a little further. The first place heifer tucked in just a tad bit more. Really appreciate the way both of them tuck up there at the flank and really expose a nice udder that's starting to develop on both of these. The heifer that we're going to start the class with, I will grant that I'd like to get her up on her toes just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more trimming on those toes might get her up just a tad. Both of them track very nicely, but the second place heifer just tends to be a little pinched in her movement right there at the rear in comparison to that first place heifer, and that's the reason we've got her in second. Two excellent, excellent individuals. Thank you.
Caitlin Seringhouse, your first place exhibitor. Bryson Miller in second. Next, we'll show your Jersey Junior 3-year-olds.
In this class of really producing cows, we've got two excellent individuals. They're really showing the development of those mammary systems, really good level floor to those udders, and we have to appreciate that. As we analyze these two heifers, or these two females though, we're going to use the female that's just got a little leveler top about her, a little leveler from that hooks to pin, but just really moves and stays level on that movement. Taking nothing away from this other cow, this second place cow is probably the little bit longer in body dimension, but still a female that I'd like to just level up as she moves just a little bit more instead of dropping down as she makes that final step. Still, two good, big capacity females for these 4-H'ers and for this breed. Really appreciate them both. Thank you very much.
Rhea Miller, your first place exhibitor. Caitlin Seringhouse, second. And now we'll show for your champion jersey. Okay, we also had a jersey aged cow submitted virtually. Kylie Weber will get a blue ribbon for that class.
Let's give all your jersey exhibitors a nice round of applause. They've really brought out a really good quality bunch of females, and we really appreciate that. Really enjoy judging a good show where it's a little difficult to sort through them and find the ones that you really like, and maybe just have a little bit of work to do and thinking to do whenever you start analyzing the goods and trying to put them all together. But in this grand champion class for the jerseys, I think it's fairly obvious and fairly easy for me. We're going to use the older cow right here for your champion. Just really a picture of what that breed should look like and what a mama cow and a dairy cow ought to be out here in the herd. Really appreciate the veining that this individual's showing us today, that good level udder floor and that capacity in that udder as well. Congratulations.
Rhea Miller exhibits your champion jersey. We'll bring back the second in that 3-year-old class to show for your reserve champion.
For your reserve champion, we're going to follow that pattern that our champion set, that good development in that udder, that long body, and as we mentioned, just an extremely long individual out here in the class whenever we talked about her. That second place animal in that class that our champion came from, she'll be your reserve champion.
Caitlin Seringhouse exhibits your reserve champion jersey. We'll let those get out. Our last breed today is our milking shorthorns. We have a couple milking shorthorns. And then we'll bring back each of your breed champions to show for your grand champion overall.
In this milking shorthorn class, we're going to really nice individual right here. The young lady's having a little bit of problems with her. I think this heifer's got a mind of her own and wants to go back in the pens. Probably she realizes she's going home here shortly too. Really wide in the front, wide in the back. Really appreciate this about this female. Good level top about her, and I really appreciate the way that tail head sets. Nice job. Let's give her a nice round of applause.
Lydia Seringhouse exhibits your milking shorthorn winter yearling. Now we have our 3-year-old milking shorthorn.
Really nice individual right here. Probably the biggest pound for pound, size for size of any of the females we've had out here in the ring. Really appreciate this old girl for that levelness that she presents to us and the way she gets around the show ring. Really like that prominence in that front shoulder and that bulge that she gives us to that middle. Just a nice individual in her own right.
Lydia Seringhouse exhibits your first place with the 5-year-old cow. Now you'll show for your champion milking shorthorn.
Analyzing these two is kind of like apples and oranges whenever we start looking at them. There's good points about both of them that I really like. But for me today, the individual that just puts things together more correctly really gives me a good levelness in her overall appearance and just really gives me that femininity. She's going to be your older cow. She's going to be your champion, taking nothing away from this younger heifer. I think this younger heifer has a bright, bright, bright future. I really appreciate the attention that she's got. She's just a really nice, balanced individual. Maybe not the overall size and scale that this old cow is going to be, but still a very clean individual in her makeup, just really beautiful. She'll be your reserve.
Lydia Seringhouse exhibits your champion and your reserve champion in the milking shorthorn. Okay, your grand champion drive for your dairy show this year. Lily Seringhouse exhibits your champion Ayrshire. Your champion Brown Swiss, Michaela Hilton Beidel. Your champion Guernsey, exhibited by Quentin Seringhouse. I got that backwards. Your Ayrshire, no, your Guernsey, exhibited by Quentin Seringhouse. Your Guernsey champion. Your Holstein champion, exhibited by Michaela Hilton Beidel. Your champion Jersey, exhibited by Rhea Miller. And your champion Shorthorn by Lydia Seringhouse. Your grand champion drive.
whenever we start analyzing these for your Grand Champion Dairy Female at this year's fair, please join me in congratulating all these kids and all their family members for coming out and being here with a live show. I know it takes an awful lot to get animals ready, but to get them ready off a trailer the morning that you're going to show and have them ready that afternoon takes a whole lot to get done, and it takes the whole family to get it done. And I congratulate each and every one of you. I really don't know how we're going to look at shows in the future. I hope we get back to the normal, and I know all these kids and their families hope we get back to what we consider normal like we've had in years past. But this year we're doing that 4-H motto. We're making the best that we have even better by being out here and doing what we're doing. I really appreciate your dedication to being at the show. I appreciate the fact that you're really working with one another to maintain that social distancing and maintain health of each and every one of us. As we analyze these heifers, I think one just comes out to me at the very beginning. And she stood out in class. She's standing out in this ring, just an excellent individual, giving us the best memory system that we have, or the best udder that we have of any of the animals that are shown. So today, your Grand Champion's going to be our Jersey.
Rhea Miller exhibits your Grand Champion with her Jersey Female. We'll bring back that second place Jersey and show for your reserve Grand Champion.
Whenever we get down to this reserve Grand Champion, there's actually 2 or 3 females in here that I just really think stand out and just really come to the top for me as I analyze them. One is this Holstein heifer. I just really appreciate her. She's just starting to get ready for that first production cycle, and I really appreciate the overall size and scale that she presents to things. Really a nice level individual with a lot of bone. I really like the Swiss heifer. You know, whenever our oldest daughter was showing dairy, Swiss was the thing that we went with, and we always have enjoyed them. We like the temperament that they have, and this heifer just really stands out for me out here in the ring today and did in her class. And as we look down through here, that second place Jersey is just a big individual. A lot of length to this heifer, as I mentioned in class, just a little longer in her body makeup than our Grand Champion. Really like her in her overall capacity and bone and that length of body. Really appreciate the development of that udder system. And as we look at the dairy scorecard, we come down through there and look at how many points we get for the development of that mammary system and the exposing of that mammary system. And that's really what puts you over the top. The reserve champion jersey will be your reserve grand champion.
Caitlin Seringhouse is your reserve grand champion. And I think I did hear you in your thing, the best udder you've seen was your grand champion. So your grand champion, Rhea Miller, will also receive your best udder award. So juniors, 3rd to 5th grade, junior showmanship will be next.
For your champion junior showman, I think we've got 3 individuals out here that do a nice job out in the ring. They've got a good ring presence about them. They handle their animals very well and very politely, and they're very polite to each other, and I appreciate that. As we analyze these, there's one individual, though, that just has probably been at it a tad bit longer than the other 2. Really does a nice job with a great big calf that he's got out here in the ring. The young man's going to be your junior champion.
Noah Hilton Vital is your junior showmanship winner, and he can come back in intermediate.
as we look at these intermediate showmen, really appreciate their stick-to-itness, I guess, if nothing else. You know, I really appreciate doing showmanship at the end of the show instead of at the beginning, because it gives me an opportunity to see them not only in the showmanship class, but in the other classes that they've participated in and where they've helped other individuals out here in the show ring as well. And I really appreciate that. I think that's what makes a good showman. As we analyze them, you know, we've got some really, really good showmen out here, a lot of potential as they come down. Some of them have brought some individuals out here as far as the females that just are a little bit more interested in being someplace other than out here in the show ring. And they can really move around the ring if they get their head. But the individual that's going to win this class is the individual that's done an excellent job with a cow that I know could have pushed her all the way out of the show ring if she'd have wanted to. But that cow just knew who had a hold of that halter. The young lady with the short horn's going to win.
Lydia Seringhouse is your intermediate showmanship champion. She's also, because there aren't any seniors to compete against, your senior champion. And for the rest of her career, she gets to show in the expert class. But she can stay in and show against your experts. So our last class of showmanship is expert showmanship.
please give all of our showmanship participants a nice round of applause for their work today. Out here in the Champion of Champions group, I think we've got 5 individuals who do a very, very nice job whenever they're out here showing. They work with their animals, and it's pretty obvious. Some of the animals wanted to be here, and some of them may not have, especially in this showmanship class. You know, about the second class of the day, I realized something. I can't see these kids smile. And that's one of the things I really like seeing, is to see if they're really having a good time with it. I read lips a little bit to see if they're really talking to that animal, or maybe talking down to that animal a little bit. But that's all lost whenever we're all wearing masks, and that's an unfortunate thing. But as we analyze these 4-H'ers today, I think one of them just brings the animal out, really has it up-headed, just really moves around the ring with a nice pace. It's not a slow pace, it's not a fast pace, it's just right on target for the size of the animal that they're showing. The young lady with the Holstein's going to be your champion.
Michaela Hilton Beidel is your expert showmanship winner. Okay, we're going to take about 5 minutes, and then we'll start your first class of feeder calves. All right, we're ready for our first class of Ripley County 4-H dairy feeder calves.
single entry in this first class of feeder calves. Really appreciate this calf, just a good body, good overall size and scale. A lot of bone to this calf. This calf's going to grow to be a pretty good sized calf once he's finished. Thank you.
Lydia Saringhouse, your first place exhibitor in Class 1. Your next class is calves weighing 266 to 269 pounds. While we're looking through these classes, I would like to thank our dairy and dairy feeder steer trophy sponsors. They are Batesville, KFC, and Taco Bell, Charles Baylor family, Country Critters 4-H Club, Crumb Trucking, Cutter Hay and Cattle, Innaking Auto Body, Farm Bureau Center, Farm Credit Mid-America Greensburg office, Friendship State Bank, Coing Equipment, Levenstein's Carpet, Lowe's Pellet and Grain, Manderley Healthcare, Pollard Bowl and Poe's Pub, Stratton Carstetter, the Napoleon State Bank, Trackside Pizza, and Weber's Greenhouse. Thank all those sponsors for our awards and trophies that will be handed to those kids at the end of the week when they check out.
Two calves that have some similarities and then some differences that we like to point out. The brown calf, just a tad bit longer calf, a calf just with a little more volume and a little more dimension in that rear leg, as opposed to the white and black calf. Two good calves. These 4-H'ers should be proud of them. They're going to grow, and they're going to grow well. Thank you very much.
Sarah Swinney, your first place exhibitor. Lily Saringhouse in second. Class 3 are calves 353 to 378 pounds.
I like this class of calves. We're going to start out with the calf with just more bone, more dimension, more overall body development as we analyze them in this class. This calf is the biggest boned in both front and rear leg, has a deeper set to that leg than the other calves in the class. Second place calf follows that pattern fairly closely. Good level top about this calf, a calf with a lot of bone up front. Maybe not the depth and dimension of that rear leg in comparison to the first place calf, but a calf very good in its own right. The next calf is a calf that falls off just a little bit at that tail point. I'd like to give that calf just a little more levelness, maybe a little bit more bone to get it to stand ahead of these calves, but a calf that's going to really grow, probably be the biggest calf of the bunch by the time it's totally finished. Thank you.
Holly Hickey, your first place exhibitor. Lydia Seringhouse second. Quentin Seringhouse in third.
In this weight division of these feeder calves, we're going to start out with the young man's calf that's the levelest calf in the class. Really appreciate the bone in this calf. Really appreciate the depth of that leg. It comes down really low into that stifle area. Just really a good type of individual that's got a lot of growth about him. Really like this up-headed red heifer or steer. Really appreciate the overall dimension of this calf. Not quite the levelness, maybe not quite the depth of that leg as compared to our first place, but really appreciate the bone and the growthiness here. The next calf is a calf that is kind of at that stage that is still growing but then developing, and we're just getting a little bit too much in that middle area to get him up any higher, but still a good calf that ought to dress out once it's finished at a very nice carcass for this 4-H'er. Really good calves. Thank you.
Lane Carroll, your first place exhibitor. Shaylee Harrington, second. Lily Seringhouse in third.
In this class of calves might look like I'm splitting things up a little bit, but really once you get your hands on them, you step back and you analyze them, I think you'll see a pattern. We're starting out with the Holstein marked calf up here in first. The young lady's got just a really nice individual as far as levelness across the top line, the amount of bone that this calf's got in it. Really appreciate the depth of that leg and the width that that calf stands on, especially in the rear. The red calf follows that pattern fairly closely. I really like this calf, maybe just a little bit forward on that chest floor, but again, a good level top calf, a calf that maybe just doesn't have the leg development or the muscle development in that rear leg that our first place animal has. The calf here in third, taking nothing away from this calf at all. Big bodied, big boned, a calf that's got a lot of potential down the road as far as having a big carcass once it's finished, but a calf that's just a little narrow in its rear stance for me today. I'd like to widen him out just a little bit more to get him to stand a little higher in that class. Thank you.
Michaela Hilton Bidle, your first place exhibitor. Henry Cummer second. Noah Hilton Bidle third. Now we'll show for your grand champion feeder calf.
Looking down through these 5 individuals out here for your champion feeder calf, I think we've got individuals that are on the right track. They're growing in the right direction. They're the right type that we'd like to see into that feeder program going into a feedlot or being finished out for that home freezer. They're really doing a nice job. These 4-Hers are doing a great job with them, especially in this heat that we've been having here lately, and I just wish them a lot of luck and a lot of success down the road. Today for your Grand Champion, we're going to use the heavier weight calf for your Grand Champion feeder calf. Just really think that calf puts the things together more correctly and more completely in comparison to the other calves in the ring. Not taking anything away from them, this calf's just on the right track and just a tad bit ahead of all the rest of them.
Michaela Hilton Beidel exhibits your Grand Champion feeder calf.
For your reserve, things get a little bit tighter for me, a little more difficult to analyze as we look at these calves. I really like the last calf that we just brought in, the red calf. Really a nice balanced individual, good wide chest floor on that calf. This calf in the class before it, in the 4th class, very, very eye-appealing type of individual. A lot of bone to this calf, really growthy type of individual that I really appreciate. This calf sets a leg just a little bit deeper than our red calf. I think this calf and the red calf are about the same in their overall length of body and dimension, but we're going to use the black and white calf the young man in the orange has for your reserve.
Lane Carroll exhibits your reserve Grand Champion. We'll let those calves get out of the ring, and we'll be looking for our junior showmanship.
Let's give all these young showmen in this division a nice round of applause, if you would, please. I think all of them do a nice job out here in the ring. They did a good job out in the class that they were in. I really appreciate that. But the one that just really gets the animals set up very smoothly, very quickly, and very correctly, the young man at the end of the line with the Holstein marked calf will be your showmanship winner.
Noah Hilton Beidel is your junior showmanship winner. And then we'll have intermediate showmanship, 6th to 8th grade.
They tell me that this is the junior, or pardon me, the intermediate and also the senior class, because there is no seniors. So this person will also be your senior winner, and as Dave said, we'll move into the Champion of Champions drive, and that's where they'll spend the rest of their career, is showing there as far as in the feeder calf program. I think we've got some really nice showmen out here. They do a good job. One of the things I was looking for was to see how deliberate they move around the show ring and how they keep that head up on that animal as they move around. You know, some of the littler kids have some problems and that head gets down on them, and I don't say a whole lot in that first class. But as we get into these kids that are in middle school, I think they need to be able to control that animal, keep that head up as they move around the ring, and then set that animal up as easily and comfortably as they possibly can and keep them in that position. I've got a couple of showmen that do a very, very nice job with those two aspects of showing. But the one that's going to win this division for me today is the one that won the last division, the young man right here. He's going to be your intermediate showman.
Noah Hilton Bidle is your intermediate and senior showmanship winner. And our last class will be expert showmanship.
Let's congratulate all your dairy feeder calf exhibitors, not only in showmanship, but the other classes. I think that's a wonderful project, and I really would encourage a lot of counties to look at this, especially as a good way to build up their dairy program through doing that feeder calf program as well. I think we've got 3 very nice showmen out here. They do a good job. They listened from the standpoint that they heard me say, keep those heads up. Make sure you set up those animals effortlessly. I didn't mention cleanliness, but we've got 3 animals that are very, very clean and well groomed and well taken care of out here. But the one showman that just really sets that animal up to that animal's greatest advantage. In other words, showing off that animal's attributes as well as maybe hiding some that just aren't there, that does a great, great job out here in the ring. Very, very purposeful in their attempt out here and their approach at showing. The young lady in the center will be your champion.
Michaela Hilton Vital is your expert showman. All right, if all sheep exhibitors would meet, no animals, just exhibitors, back here in the rabbit barn, you have a quick exhibitor meeting. All sheep exhibitors, please meet in the rabbit barn for a quick sheep meeting.